to the next episode of the Austin Bar Association's Council of Firsts. I'm your host, Amanda Arriaga, First Latina Bar President. This podcast is made possible by the Texas Bar Foundation. Today, we talk to the leadership of the Austin Bar Association's LGBT section. Philip Arnold is a partner at Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Acosta LLP. He's a graduate of St. Mary's University School of Law and Tulane. He's been active in the Austin Bar for years and was the founder and chair of the Eminent Domain section. He's also the current chair of the LGBT section. Mateus Eduardo Garcia, or Matt Garcia, is the managing member of Barnett and Garcia PLLC. He's a graduate of the University of Texas School of Business and School of Law. He serves on the board of the Austin Bar Association and is the incoming chair of the LGBT section. In honor of Pride Month, I wanted to talk to Philip and Matt about the LGBT section, its importance, and their plans for the future. Please join me in welcoming Philip and Matt. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with me about your lives in the section. And so I want to start, this question is for each of you individually. Why did you want to be a lawyer? And I'm going to start with Philip.
I wanted to be a lawyer for two reasons. I had a bunch of lawyers in my family, and I was very argumentative as a child. So it was very natural for my parents to say, oh, you should just be like your uncle or whatever, right? Or be like your grandfather. The real reason I wanted to be a lawyer was because I grew up watching Matlock in Perry Mason reruns with my mom. And I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney because it looked like fun.
Have you found it to be as fun as you saw on TV?
I was not able to, I don't do criminal laws. So I don't know. I also don't wear seersucker suits. But I think, Matlock still looks like fun. I wanted to do like the investigation, have like, the guy who, breaks into somebody's house, gets the evidence for you and helps you get your guy off, and you get them on the stand and they confess to murdering, the person your client's accused of murder. That's what I thought being a lawyer was. But I actually do really like being a lawyer. I think I'm one of those kind of rare lawyers who won't tell other people not to be a lawyer. Like, I really like it.
Matt, why did you want to be a lawyer?
Well, to be honest, I didn't want to be a lawyer. I ended up becoming a lawyer because I think there's a permanent imprint of my mother's foot up my butt. She really thought that's what I needed to do. I wanted to save the world. I wanted to become a priest. And so when I graduated from undergrad, I told my mom that I wanted to devote my life to the Lord. And she's like, no, just go to law school, which is so weird, right? Because you would think like a Hispanic mom would be like happy. I know my dad was happy because he's like, yes, I can sin as much as I want to now. Because I've got a ticket, out of hell. But no, she was like, I just remember they drove up to Laredo, like I talked to my mom, like, I don't know, some night. And then like the next day they were there and like, no, you're going to law school. So I'm like, okay, well, so I went. And then of course, I think they knew once I start something, it's hard for me to just stop. So like, it's like, okay, so she's like, just start it. And then if you don't like it, you can leave. But if you like it, you can stay. And then if you stay and you still don't want to be a lawyer, then you can leave again. And so sure enough, I tried it, and then I was like, okay, well, I might as well just see this to the end. So I graduated from law school, and then I came back to my mom, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I did what I was supposed to do. Now I'm going to enter into the seminary. And she's like, no, you need to take the bar. So I'm just like, she's like, what if the seminary doesn't work out? And I'm like, okay, I'll take the bar. So I took the bar, and then I was like, okay, I've now done everything I'm supposed to do. I'm now going to go. She's like, okay, you can go. So I left. And then 6 months later, I decided, the seminary is a bad place for me to be. I don't want to be here. So I came back to Austin, and I'm just like, okay, now what do I do? And I'm like, I have this thing called a law license. Maybe I should use that. So moral of the story, mom probably knew best. But if you would have asked me, back then, do you want to be a lawyer? I would have said, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, then you can still save the world as a lawyer.
Right. That's right. I wanted to save the world in a different way. And it's not like I don't do, I didn't abandon my religion. It's just that I decided that I didn't want to live my life in a consecrated single life.
So you are the leadership for the Austin Bar's LGBTQ plus section. What are some of the projects that you're most proud of?
I think our big project every year is the drag show, which is really a scholarship fundraiser. It's had different ways of raising money over the years. Before it was more like a gala, a formal event, and they would raise money that way for LGBTQ plus. I don't know if it was Q plus at that time, but scholarships for law school students in Texas. Uh, with Denise Hernandez, Judge Denise Hernandez, 3 years ago. This is our third year to do it. So maybe 4 years ago, had the idea for a drag show. She thought it'd be fun, and then our past chair put it together with Denise and did a great job. We raised, I want to say maybe $15,000 that first year. The second year we did 20. This year we just talked to Delane, 22 plus,
Almost 23.
almost 23,000. So hopefully we can, continue to grow that. But it's a good fundraiser, I think, because it really takes, like, it costs nothing to do it. I mean, we have to pay the performers, which are very affordable. The DJ, the bar is free. So all of the effort and everything is straight profit.
But you know what I really liked about it is that it wasn't just a lawyer fundraiser. Like, because we had it at a local bar, which is local gathering space, we had people that were coming in off the street. We had allies, we had coagitators. There was just a variety of group of people. And I thought that that was great. I was also impressed with how much support we had from elected officials. We had quite a number of elected officials there too. And I thought that that was really nice.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years we get a good group from the local bar, but we had a bunch of. I mean, we had the county attorney donated. I think both years. I think she came maybe the year before, and Senator Eckhart as well. I mean, it's just been a really good turnout, I think, from kind of the Austin elected officials, which really, I think last year was the drag show bill. The legislature is in town. There might have been more of a drive to make a statement that year. But it's good to have that support.
One of the things that I was particularly pleased about this fundraiser is that we are fundraising to encourage that next generation of lawyers. And really, if we don't do that, if we don't arm the next generation that comes up, I think we can be put at a disadvantage. And so it's almost our obligation to help those people, because in helping them, we're helping the whole community.
Well, and it's interesting because the obligation, unfortunately, is going to fall on sections like yours or on our voluntary bar associations because you sort of alluded DEI has been a hot topic in the legislature. Interestingly, specifically, drag shows have become a very controversial topic. And so within the 3 years that this has been an event, it could have gotten more targeted. And so it's important to have sections like yours that can raise money for topics because statewide funding will not be available for that. And there will be some organizations that won't do this kind of programming and that won't raise money for the kinds of students you want to raise money for. So can we talk about how important it is that we have this voluntary association that can do these kinds of projects?
Absolutely. One of the things that I remind myself on a regular basis is evil happens when good people don't do anything. And it's scary to do things that are controversial, but when it's the right thing and when you have right on your side, I think you can take some solace. It doesn't mean that bad things might not happen to you because you're advocating for good. Certainly, we know a lot of people. I mean, look at Nelson Mandela. He spent the majority of his life in prison because he was doing some good work. But we have to do our part in supporting those who are disenfranchised, so that we can lift the whole community up. We're only as strong as our weakest link.
Well, and we've been really lucky with the Austin Bar and with your section. We have been able to prioritize DEI events. We have the Equity Summit. We raised money at the gala for DEI, specifically DEI related activities. And I think not everyone knows what to do about it, but they could join your section or they could donate to your events. Will you tell the audience how they could do that?
Yes, so we still have a Give Butter webpage that is active. So you can go on Give Butter, and I'm sure I haven't Googled it, but I'm sure you could Google Austin Bar
And we'll put it in the notes.
LGBTQ section. And our Give Butter page is still active there. So you can donate on Give Butter, which is kind of like Venmo. I mean, basically, you just donate with a credit card. They can also donate directly to the Austin Bar Foundation, which is the charitable arm of the Austin Bar Association. That would be a tax deductible donation, is my understanding. I'm not a tax lawyer, but I think that if you check with Delane Ward, the executive director, she'll tell you how to send a check to them. I think you can just mail it to the Austin Bar Association, and we will always, take that money. And if it's past the time when we're awarding scholarships for this year's round, we will bank that money and apply it towards next year. And then, contact me or Matt, and we can figure out, if you want to be recognized as a sponsor, we can put you on for next year at the different sponsorship levels that we have.
Getting to a little bit of a heavier question. Do you think the legal profession in Austin is doing a better job at being more diverse, equitable, and inclusive?
I was lucky enough to co-chair the Equity Summit that we just had yesterday, and it was kind of interesting. I will say, in full transparency, we had trouble getting sponsorships. I'm not even sure that we got any. I'd have to go back and look. And I wonder, with the attacks on diversity lately, and I think that's what they are, whether or not um, it's given people the freedom to maybe fall back on some of, and I don't want to call them prejudicisms, but um, matters of being, which makes me wonder sometimes how genuine their commitment to diversity was to begin with. And I'm still processing all of that. I don't know what my final thoughts are, but it does make me wonder. I was happy to see that we had about 100 people there yesterday, even though there were other activities around town with graduations and at the federal bar, and we just had bench bar the week before. So that was absolutely encouraging. But if you look at the recent legislation that has just been passed, they make diversity out to be a bad thing, or equity to be a bad thing, and it's just kind of alarming. It almost feels like we're taking a step back.
I read an article recently that explained the reason some people don't like DEI initiatives is that it always pits people into one of two groups, victims and oppressors, and it offends the oppressors. And sometimes I can't figure out, that must be a self-imposed oppression, because when we're talking about scholarships for law students, I don't think there's a victim or oppressor there. There are kids that need money, right? There are, when we talk about the DEI grant for Fund to Need, we're talking about organizations that need to do good work and that need money to do that work.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I guess, a person I know who will, has opinions on, um, and they're not bad people, right? But the opinion that gets expressed to me is, well, why do we need to single out this group for special treatment, right? And it's because, though it's a he doesn't understand, I think, that that person hasn't been on a level playing field with, a straight white male, right? And I mean, I'm a gay white male, but I mean, I have a ton of privilege just being a white male, right? Um, but there's so many people out there that I don't think realize that their starting place is so much further than where a lot of other people start, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of historical reasons, a lot of socioeconomic reasons that, I mean, you could have 1,000 podcasts about it and never talk about all of them, right? But um, I think where a lot of that antagonism comes from, it's that people don't necessarily get it, right? They just don't quite understand, why should this person be getting a leg up that I'm not getting, right? I also need help. I'm also, have trouble paying for my bills. I have trouble. College is expensive for me too. Why does this person, just because they're a minority or a female or a gay, why do they get something that I don't get, right? And it's not because they're not deserving, right? It's the same argument, in my opinion, the same logic that is against affirmative action. It's the same thought process, and it's not. I don't think coming from a malicious place all the time. I mean, I think there's sometimes it's coming from a malicious place, but I think the vast majority of people, they just don't understand why, and I think somebody has to articulate for them why.
Well, and I think that's where we need to share our stories, and the more that we share our stories, um, and especially in the LGBTQ plus community, where historically, it's it's a group of people who have not been welcomed, who have been ridiculed, who are ridiculed today, and who are targeted, to share our stories so that people can get to know us and understand and maybe empathize a little with where we're coming from. Because really, I mean, as human beings, we're built to be in community with each other, and if you don't take the time to get to know your neighbor, it's easy to make it an us versus them type situation. But when we share our stories and we become vulnerable to create those interpersonal connections, I think that's where real growth can happen. um, and that's why I think, these sections are important, because sometimes, in order to get that strength for people to share their stories, they need to feel comfortable with who they are and the challenges that they face. And I think organizations like the LGBTQ plus section of the Austin Bar Association help create those safe places that gives people the freedom and the strength and the courage to go out and talk with others.
Yeah, and I mean, just having the organization and having your name be a member of that organization, right? Of something that, like being gay, nobody really knows, right? Your sexuality unless you tell them. The membership that we have, which I think is fairly large membership for a section, um, is I think says a lot about how far the community has come in. I mean, since Ellen, right? I mean, in the last 20 years, how far have LGBT rights come? And not just legal rights, but just being socially acceptable, right? It's come so far since then, and I think our membership in our section just kind of reinforces that in an everyday normal way, which I think is a good way, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be out there advocating all the time. Sometimes just being present and being, yourself and being public about that is enough.
Well, in the history of your section that you all know, the audience might not remember, is that it was its own organization and then folded into the Austin Bar. But you are different sometimes in a way because you get to be part of things like the diversity report card that wouldn't make sense for a different kind of technical section to be a part of. But you get to sort of almost be a hybrid of, you're part of the Austin Bar Association, you have the benefit, you can reach all the members, you can reach all the donors. But you also get to partner with all of the affinity bars, all of our sister bar associations to make an impact in the DEI initiatives with things like the diversity report card.
We do. And the diversity bar judicial candidate forum, I attended that event, which was really good. And you're right, when we do partner with those groups a lot, and it has been kind of that hybrid, right? And I've talked to the guys who founded this section years ago, Gary, and that group whose names are slipping my mind at the moment. I'll apologize to them later. Um, but they had a strategy of remaining separate from the bar for a while because they wanted not just the independence and not because the bar didn't welcome them. It was really because they had a strategy of through their advocacy, right? Of being able to do things as a separate organization that they couldn't necessarily do if they were part of the Austin Bar Association. So I think at some point it made sense to fold it into the Austin Bar Association for the reasons you talked about, that we can reach just a bigger group of people and maybe do a little bit more with sharing resources like we do.
And the law there is so vast too. I mean, this law is developing. It continues to develop. It seems to go forward, sometimes take a step backwards, and then go forward again. And so I think that is something unique about it, is that you're looking uh, at at a constitutional law, namely the Equal Protection Clause. You're looking at family law. You're looking at all sorts of things like surrogacy, gender issues, gender markers, those types of things. And so it's also, I mean, there's a huge legal component too. And so the law is changing very rapidly, sometimes going forward, sometimes going backward, but it's a place where information can be conveyed in real time so that people can be informed as to what rights they have or no longer have, depending on the day of the week.
Well, I hope that we have inspired members of our audience to join your section or at least give you money for all the good work that you do.
That's right. That's right. And I don't think you have to be gay to be part of the session of the section.
No, you don't. I know. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I I know there's some people who are in straight marriages who I assume are not gay who are members of our section. So you don't have to be gay to be a member of our section. And if you want to donate, just know that you don't have to donate $200. You can donate $5, and that $5 will it adds up, right? If everybody can donate $5, that collectively will add up to a lot towards our scholarships. We're giving out four $5,000 scholarships this year, and we still have a little bit more over that amount left. So if we could get up to a fifth $5,000 scholarship, that would be a record for us. So every little bit helps.
What are some organizations that have meant the most to you professionally or personally? Philip.
Within the Austin Bar Association, the eminent domain section, helped found that, and it was really an outgrowth of it. It was kind of funny. So I was on the History and Traditions Committee, and I wrote we were doing a project to write the history of the affinity bars, the Black Lawyers Association, Asian Lawyers, LGBTQ. So I contacted Gary Schulman, asked him about the history of it. I wrote that article for Austin Lawyer. And I remember he told me at one point that it was really a group of them standing around like, why don't we start an LGBTQ section? And they asked Elaine. She said, great, do it. I was like, is that easy to start a section of the Austin Bar Association? And I thought, what we need is an eminent domain section. I've done eminent domain law most of my professional career, almost all of it. And a lot of the eminent domain lawyers in the state of Texas are in Austin, like probably 70% of them. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the attorney general's office is here. 40 out of probably the 100 eminent domain lawyers in the state are at the attorney general's office. Plus, we have, some other local firms and some big firms that have big, good groups, but they're all here. And I thought, well, why don't I just try to start a section? So I asked Delane. She said, go for it. So put that together. And that's really kind of been a baby, right? That I worked really hard to get off the ground. And we're on our, let's see, I did maybe 9 months, I think, as chair of that, just because it started at an odd time. And then Noah Galton came on. He did a great job after that. And then Christina Silcox came on, did a great job. And then she's about to go out. So we're about to come on our fourth chair. And it's just really, we meet once a month, maybe a little less, kind of depending on the holidays. But we do CLEs, we do happy hours, we go to each other's offices. I feel like we've really gotten to know each other as a group. We all knew each other because it's a really small group of lawyers who do this. But to like have that social interaction with each other, I feel like I can call lawyers who do, I represent governments pretty much exclusively. There are lawyers who represent landowners exclusively. And I have better working relationships with them now, I think, than I did before. And I think that's really just getting to know somebody face to face, like we were talking about with kind of DEI. I mean, I think it works with anything, right? The more you know somebody, the more likely you are to get along with them.
Well, and it's also a good path for leadership. If you have an idea and you're willing to put in the work, you can be in charge of anything.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, right? Yeah, I think I've learned that from my parents too. It's just kind of, yeah, if you're willing to go work and do it, then pretty much nobody's going to stop you, right? Like I come from a big family, and we have a farm, and my brother lives, in Waco, kind of near the farm, and so we've kind of decided, you know what, we're just going to do what we want to do and put in the work, and pretty much everybody just goes along with it. We just don't really ask, our uncles and my dad, they kind of own everything, right? But we just kind of do what we want to do, and everybody's like, yeah, if you're willing to do it, then go for it. And it's the same thing with, like, Christmas, right? If you want to plan Christmas at your house and you're willing to do all the work, most of your relatives are willing to show up and bring up, side salad and just let you do everything. Who wants to fight you about that?
Matt.
I think I have two. I think the one that probably is dear and close to my heart is I'm a member of the Robert Calvert American Inn of Court, and I've been a member for a really long time. I looked up how many years, and I think it's well over 15 years. And I practice in the area of creditors' rights, and it is also a small bar, a group of people that do it. They do it like that's all they do, not just something that they just happen to get assigned or get started on. And so this is really an opportunity for me to meet lots of people in different practice areas, but also and more importantly, it gave me an opportunity to meet many of my mentors that have helped me. Orlando Naranjo comes to mind, Javier Medina comes to mind, people like that, that are just um, focused on civility, on ethics, on just being not just a good lawyer, certainly being a competent lawyer, but being an ethical lawyer, being a civil lawyer. I'm very appreciative to the creditors, Texas Creditors Bar Association, especially during the pandemic, because during the pandemic we had a lot of because I practice in the area of creditors' rights, we had a lot of legislation that we had to worry about, which basically put a moratorium on the work that we did. And so, because of the Texas Creditors Bar Association, we were able to stay on top of the legislation. We were able to save, most of us were able to save our jobs, or at least keep working, or find ways, or find ways to be able to continue to do what we do with compassion and empathy towards our fellow citizens, but also, being able to protect the credit markets and protect their jobs and the people that we employ. So that's been a great organization, and I've really enjoyed being part of that one as well.
Well, my last question for y'all is what advice would you give to attorneys in Austin who want to get involved but don't know how?
As with anything, find their peeps. What fuels you? What is in what puts that fire in your belly? For me, I really enjoy the Calvert Inn. I like the people that are there. I like what we talk about. I love the fact that we focus on civility. I like the fact that we focus on ethics. That gets me excited. So it's easy for me to show up every first Tuesday of the month. It's easy for me to donate my time, and it's really enjoyable. And so, building those communities with like-minded people help you as you start your career. So I'd encourage you to do a little exploration. You don't if you don't know what that fire in your belly is, try a bunch of different groups until you find the group that you resonate with the most. And then and then go out there and make friends. And if you're afraid of making friends, I mean, look around the room. There's always going to be one or two people that are standing by themselves. Go talk to that person, and then together talk to another person. And before you know it, you're talking to half the room.
Yeah, I would. Kind of my experience with getting involved in the Austin Bar Association is I think I saw an email that talked about the History and Traditions Committee, and I was a history major. My dad was a history professor, so I like history a lot. I thought that'd be fun, so I signed up for that. And for the first year, I don't think that committee did anything. I think we met once, and then uh, Pastor Joe Parker became chair of it, and under your leadership, I believe. And then we really got going and did some good stuff, and I really got involved. And then that led me to writing that article about the LGBTQ section, which led me to founding the eminent domain section. And now, I mean, I've been chair of two different sections. I'm now chair of the whatever of the History and Traditions Committee, and so now all of a sudden I'm very involved in the Austin Bar Association, and it was incremental, but I just kind of found something I liked, like Matt said, and slowly it just kind of brought me in to do a little more, do a little more. So I think just find a section, or maybe it's what you practice. Maybe you do employment law and join the employment law section and go to the meetings. It's free CLE. It's networking with your colleagues, right? I mean, there's a business aspect to that too. So that's always good. But then, you may find yourself getting a little bit more involved and a little bit more involved. And then, you're treasurer. And then next thing you know, you're chair of that section. And then, maybe you want to go on and be a board member.
Well, thanks y'all for being here. Thank you for what you do and your service to the bar and the Austin legal community. And I hope that this discussion gets y'all some more members and some more money.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see y'all next time.